This video is made possible thanks to Cyclops Joe.
So as you can see, I zoomed out just a little bit to try to get a little bit more purchase on my table because this next one is a doozy. It is massive. It is an Arken SH Gen 2, and this is their 6-24. If I can remember which side the sticker is on. There's everything you're going to need to know. Now, I have to say, this is compliments of Cyclops Joe. If you don't know who he is, he's a reviewer of optics and other fantastic things. Link to his channel is in the description below. And he had reached out to me asking me if I was interested in doing a review of this. The only thing he asked in return was I mentioned him, and I put the link to Arken with his affiliate in my description for him. And I said, you know what? That sounds absolutely perfect. So huge thank you to Joe. Check out his channel. He is a huge personality, and he's a phenomenal guy. You know how they are down in Texas. Truly fantastic people. So Joe, thank you very much. This couldn't have been done without you, and I can't wait to see this thing for myself, because your review of it showed this thing to be pretty damn impressive. For the price that this is $400. It's got a hell of a lot of features, and we're going to take a look at some of them right now. So right off the bat, the box is pretty damn nice. It's not the nicest, but it's really nice, high quality cardboard, and it doesn't sound like there's too much moving inside. Everything you see over here is usually reserved for fairly expensive optics. This being $400, I'm curious to see how all of it holds up. But enough of that. I don't want to tell, I want to show. This seems to be packaged fairly well. Let's see what's inside this box. Doesn't sound like a whole lot. It appears to be a battery and a little Allen key and a little microfiber towel. This foam comes off. That's nice. Wow, that's a big knob. That's what she said. Oh, look at that. They actually have the sunshade around the back of the scope. This saves a lot of packaging space, because usually, especially on like the Razor series from Vortex, this is off to the side and the box has to be bigger, and then everything else is off to the side and that has to be bigger. So for them to package it like this in line, pretty smart. So I believe this is a Chinese made scope, and for the price I honestly couldn't expect much more. But look at that reticle. That looks pretty sweet, and I like how the illumination is just the crosshair in the middle, or at least that's what it shows to be right here. So that's about as short and sweet as you're going to get. There is your zero stop adjustment. There's a set screw on top, which you can see right here. It's even labeled. It makes it basically idiot proof, and I'm an idiot, so I should even be able to use this. And there are all your dimensions. Funny enough, these are all in English, not metric. All right, so bikini cover I love, because they're a very affordable and easy way of protecting your glass that, guess what, when you're not using it, you throw off to the side. It doesn't add any weight to your rifle, and if you lose them, they're not that expensive. Let's pull off this sunshade, which is on there very well. And let's take a look at this real quick, because you know what, I don't often spend enough time looking at sunshades. But it looks pretty good. The finish on this is not terrible. It looks a little bit thin, but again, everything has to be put into perspective. Look at that. Maximum torque, 15 inch-pounds. So in case you were wondering what you should set your rings to, there you go. And by the way, people, I really strongly, highly, lifelong recommend you get a torque wrench. Let's see what we've got going on. A lot seems to be going on. Fast focus eyepiece. And that is very smooth. Has a lot of adjustability to it. You know what? That thing is really tight. No felt wiggle in there whatsoever. From there, we're going to check out the Magnification Ring, which, as you can see, 6 is at 12, and 24 is a little bit past 6 o'clock. I'd call that like 6:30, 7 o'clock. So it's a little bit more than 180 degrees rotation to go from minimum to maximum magnification. And that's a little on the tighter side, but that's fine, because it's still easy enough to turn, and I'm sure this will break in slightly. Now, as much resistance as there is on this, it is very smooth, and there's no catch-ups or hiccups anywhere. It's minimum to maximum, very, very nice. Damping on this is almost perfect, I would say. But it would definitely benefit from a throw lever. This is especially being more than 180 degrees, going from minimum to maximum magnification, you're going to be there like this. Actually, you wouldn't be doing it like that. You'd be doing it like this, because that's about all you could really wrench on top of your rifle. So definitely get a throw lever for this. That'll make your life significantly easier. Illumination Control, from 1 to 10. It is obviously 360 degrees around with offs in between each power setting. And that also feels really good. It doesn't sound like a click, 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 which I'm sure these turrets are going to sound like, but it just glides into the next position and it stays there. Very little wiggle. In fact, little to no wiggle, I would say. Good amount of resistance and a good amount of purchase on here. The splines on this have just enough of a surface area that your finger's actually going to fall inside this groove and catch. So this feels really, really good. This is measured in yards, or at least that's what they say online, even though this is a mil scope. So 25 yards to infinity. And you can see there's a huge amount of swing to this. I'd say probably around 300 degrees, which means that we should be able to really fine tune this at different distances to get it absolutely perfect. So let's see, go 25, 30, 40, 50, 60, 75, and 100. And for some reason, a lot of manufacturers really get this distance. Like they provide a lot of fine tuning for this distance. I can understand that for rimfire shooters, but for the vast majority of people buying optics, especially higher magnification optics like this, they're usually going longer ranges than 100 yards. And as you can see, from 25 to 100, a lot of fine tuning under 100 yards. And then it goes infinity. But damping on this is fantastic. This feels really smooth. No hiccups whatsoever. From all the way to infinity, back down to 25. This thing feels excellent. How is this turret? Wow, that feels actually really good. It is very tight. There is no movement whatsoever, and then it's just click, 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 click. That feels really good, with the exception of going forward, and then it settles in. But it settles into where you want it to stop. So if I go to 0, it settles right there, and that is impressive with how good that feels. Let's check the windage, and right off the bat, 1R, 1L. Some manufacturers don't get this right. I don't know why, but they just don't. Bringing the bullet to the reticle, bringing it right, bringing it left. Now, let's exact same turret, but that feels fucking really good. I'm really impressed with how these things feel. Once they're in there, there's no real moving it unless you want or need to move it. And they sound just right. So we're gonna check under the turret, and I forgot to open up the battery cover and see what it looks like. So nice big pad in the middle with 3 little indents on it. Not uncommon to see battery compartments like this on lower priced optics. And you know what I find? They just work. Again, a very standard looking spring on the cap. And while I'm here, I might as well chuck in a battery, so this way we can look through the scope together in about another 30 seconds and see what it looks like. All right, so there are there's actually 4 set screws. I think this is a lock for the 0 stop, but let me crack these loose and see what we got underneath this turret. There we go. Good purchase area over here where the set screws are going to lock up. I like how it's recessed, so once the cap is on there fully and you cinch them down, you don't have to worry about the marring, have the cap come up and off after you loosen up the set screws and cause damage to it. And here is, I'm assuming our 0 stop is going to button up against here and then bite into the surface, and that's going to be it. So that slot that we saw on the inside, the set screw buttons up against it, and then you can cinch this down ever so slightly, and there is your 0 stop. Enough of this. Let's actually look through this damn thing.
All right, here we go. So we start out at 6x as minimum magnification at about 30 yards or so. The first thing that actually pops to my eye is how little of the scope body you can see versus how much you can see looking through it. That is a very small amount of the scope body, which I personally am a huge fan of. I want as much being able to see through it and my peripheral as possible. Bumping it up here to 24x, and you see I have to really play around with that side focus. Like we saw earlier, there's a lot to go between 25 and 100 yards, so it gives you a really nice finite adjustment at these closer distances. The image looks great despite being slightly washed out, but that was my fault, not the scope's. Keep in mind, this is the maximum illumination, which isn't great, but I wasn't expecting that much for 400 bucks. Stretching it out to 400 yards, we start out at 6x like we normally do, and we're going to stretch it out to its maximum magnification. Again, without going too much into detail, just look at how good that looks looking through that little strip of the scope body out there. This is fantastic for $400. And this is where I'm going to end this unboxing. I know this is a very long video, but there's so much about this scope that it has to be talked about because it comes with basically everything you could really need or want. And again, a huge thank you to Cyclops Joe for making this video possible. Please check out his channel. Link is in the description below. He's a truly wonderful man, and he has a very unique personality, I'll say. Larger than life. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. See you again next time. And a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. Without you, this wouldn't be possible.